Good evening, everyone, to the Tuesday, March 10th, 2020 Town Board meeting. I'd like to start off with a few announcements, and I will make that a hybrid Deputy Supervisor's report. First of all, congrats goes out to Horace Greeley's basketball team, 46-35, beating Mount Vernon, not just for our Class A, AA, championship, but it's the last one, or the first one since 1980, which obviously none of them were around then, and some of us may not have been around either, but that's pretty exciting. So congrats to them. A few important things. Town summer camp registration begins on March 9th, which is now. 914-238-3909, or you can register at mynewcastle.org/camp. We have an event for the history of the American flag, March 11th at 7 p.m. here in Town Hall. Another event on Friday, March 13th at 1 p.m. At 10 Center Street called National Healthcare Decisions Day that some people might be interested in being involved in. There will be refreshments, and for more information, you can call 914-238-2093. You can also go to nhdd.org. We have a League of Women Voters event on the 21st. Educating a 21st century approach to educating youth for democratic participation, and pardon me, that's Monday, March 16th of this year at 7 p.m. at the high school. Also, a couple of more things. We have the Horace Greeley Scholarship Fund Spring Benefit on March 20th at 7 p.m. at Brayburn Country Club. So if you haven't gotten any tickets, you can go to hgsf.org to find out more information. I'm proud to announce that Newcastle has been recognized as the third safest city or municipality in New York State. We are described, and I think rightfully so, as an idyllic Westchester County town with wide lawns and historic 18th century homes. With just one reported violent crime in 2018 and a property crime rate of 13% of national levels, Newcastle is a model community in terms of safety. So thank you to Chief Carroll, thank you to the Newcastle Police Department, and frankly, thank you to everyone who either lives here or visits here and plays a part in this town. Also, credit to the Newcastle Police Department for receiving their certificate of accreditation from the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services. There's a different categories, 3 categories, and they successfully completed that. As many of you know, we had the Paper Bag Players this past weekend, which I believe was sold out, which a success would be an understatement, so that's good. It's been brought up before. We have the census coming up. I think Ivy Poole mentioned last time or the time before that it was $2,500 per person that it could cost the town if they are not put into the census. So it's really critically important that, and that's per year, that you do and take part in the census. I believe that starting sometime around March 16th, we'll be getting things in the mail to keep us informed. We have a couple public hearings, or a few tonight. We have a local law to allow competitively bid purchases based not just on the lowest price, but on best value and how that impacts our community. We have a vacant storefront registry, which we've been discussing as well, relating to a $25 fee that ultimately could be refundable for vacant storefronts. We also have something that we'll be dealing with tonight, a street opening legislation. We're going to be keeping that open, but basically requiring, for example, if someone comes in and disrupts or damages a concrete slab or part of the sidewalk, that there are responsibilities to maintain it and restore it, not just put a patch. And there's also ways to enforce that. Almost done. The coronavirus, I think that's sort of the elephant in the room. We had, thanks to the Chappaqua Library, Dr. Harish Murjani, who is the Medical Director, Infectious Disease Clinic, who came and spoke here in Town Hall. And if anyone watched it, there was very few people here, and everyone has a right to be concerned, but it was live streamed. I think it had a lot of success and a lot of people accessing it from home. It's recorded on our website. I encourage you to watch it. It was very educational, and if nothing else, you know, facts are facts, but it certainly eased a lot of people's minds about what this is all about. So thank you to the library, and thank you to Dr. Murjani. I do want to just finalize, going back to the coronavirus. I think it's certainly okay to be scared. It's okay to be nervous. That's healthy. I think if you weren't nervous, that would be very unhealthy. But we have to make sure that whatever facts you have, they are real facts, and it's not fear-based facts. You can't be driven with an emotional response. It has to be a response that is based on science, based on medicine, and that's critical because otherwise you're spreading not just that disease, but you're spreading that disease in terms of fear unnecessarily to the community. I just caution people, if they're going to post things on social media, source it from legitimate sources. Don't just post a salacious headline that says X is quarantined or someone's in the hospital. You really have to know the facts because people, all of us tend to take that path of least resistance and they look at that little blurb and the next thing you know, there's it's hysteria or concerns that are unfounded. The reality it is pardon me, that there are great resources. The New York State Department of Health has a website. Westchester County Department of Health has a website. I encourage you to tag those because they are updated. Jill Shapiro, our town staff, have been working very diligently in responding and dealing with the county and beyond, and you should have no misgivings. Our priority is you. We've been in contact with County Executive Latimer and the Westchester Department of Health. I'm on multiple calls with them. I've been in communication with Christine Ackerman, the superintendent of Chapakua Central School District, and just today we compiled a list of neighboring school districts, of our first responders, of houses of worship, so that we can try to centralize communication as best we can, should there ever be an issue. We've reached out about installing, if possible, hand sanitizers at the train station because that is an area where obviously people congregate. And as silly as it may sound, keeping those doors ajar so that not every nose goes to the hand, then goes to the mouth, and then goes to that door handle that everyone touches as they're rushing to the train. Whatever guidance the county gives us, we will follow. As of now, I don't believe there's been anything that we've been canceling, but certainly if there's a need, we will do so. What else can I tell you? I just want to close with some important information from a press release from the governor today. As of earlier today, there was 173 confirmed cases in New York State of coronavirus, and 108 were in the New Rochelle cluster, if you will. I'm only aware of, I believe there's only been 2 hospitalizations, and I'm not aware of any fatalities. I think that's important to understand because, again, salacious headlines would make you fear this far more if you are immune compromised, if you are older. Certainly you shouldn't be going to group settings where you have the opportunity to be too close to one another. But if those numbers are favorable, for lack of a better term, bearing out that if you take the steps to deal with this, that you can be healthy, you have to live your life, you can't live in fear, but you have to be responsible. I'd also add, there was some social media concern I saw about the National Guard because the state has called in the National Guard to New Rochelle solely to aid in a local health department command center, help with sanitation, help with delivering food to seniors and I believe some children who may be home from school. So this is not Armageddon. Something wicked this way comes is not appropriate. They are taking the proper steps. Let's not be irrational. Let's be vigilant and responsible, and we are going to all get past this. So thank you for all of that. I now pass it along to the more than equipped and competent Jill Shapiro. And thank you, Jill Shapiro. She has been doing a Herculean effort. It's the truth. Blush. It's okay.
Thank you. Just want to let the board know that the Millwood Water Treatment Plant and Suez have filed an updated safety and staffing protocol with the Westchester County Department of Health, just being proactive on that. Just to add what Jeremy said, that program over the weekend, it's had 1,500 hits, which is pretty remarkable for one of our little programs, tremendously informational. Our streetscape project, ELQ subcontractors have returned to town to install the remaining ADA compliant and required handrails along the steps next to Ibiza, on the steps throughout town by Starbucks and by Waka. Rails will also be installed on the new steps by Whispering Pines and the old Boswell Engineering Field Office. Additional work just needs to be performed on those steps first. We're going to get a schedule for that. And there are some punch list items also to be completed throughout town, so expect to see the final streetscape repairs being completed this spring. Just an update on the Minkle Dam. On February 25th, the town board listened to a presentation on Upper Minkle Dam, a level C high-hazard dam located in the Sunny Ridge Preserve on the Newcastle-Ossining border. Last Tuesday, town staff met with the town of Ossining officials, including Supervisor Dana Levenberg, her assistant Victoria Caffarelli, village engineer, their water superintendent, and the building inspector. We met along with our engineering consultant, Mark Lukasik from Tectonic Engineering, about the dam. We were able to answer all questions for them and left them feeling very comfortable with our plans moving forward and what the options would be. In the upcoming weeks, we will be continuing our conversations with adjacent and nearby property owners to the upper and actually lower Minkle dams. Just a shout out to Christine Gray and Ike Cusio, and everyone involved in the Paper Bag Players presentation. A fantastic start to our children's free series and also all of the wonderful other programs that the Chappaqua Friends is sponsoring. So if you're interested, there's some fabulous offerings there. And last but not least, Girl Scout cookie sales started this week, so look out for them. Thanks.
I feel like it's every week. Okay, so public comment, any new business, any comments, anyone? Bueller? Seeing no hands, I think we're good. All right, so our first public hearing that we need to open is a local law to include awarding competitively bid purchase contracts on the basis of best value as an alternative to lowest responsible bidder.
I move to open the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nick, do you want to just give a brief overview?
Thank you. So in the agenda packet is a copy of a local law beginning on page 5. And under New York State law, municipalities are required to award contracts based upon the lowest responsible bidder. There are two types of contracts under state law: purchase contracts or public works contract. This would only apply to purchase contract. A public works contract is repaving a road, building a building, something of that nature. A purchase contract is you're buying supplies, computers, paper towels, things of that nature. So this local law would allow the municipality, at the time it decides to seek bids, to designate that in considering the bids, it will consider not only the lowest price, but also the best value. And the state law says that when you adopt that law, you need to make sure you indicate in the bid qualifications before you go out to bid that you're doing best value. What are some of the factors you'll consider? And then at the time you make that determination, why are you making that determination based upon best value? Why are you determining not to take the lowest bidder, but rather pay more for what you consider to be a better product? So an example of that might be a computer. You're going to be buying computers, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, $40,000 worth of computers. You have experience with a particular brand, and you'll make reference to that in your bid specifications. And it does need to be specific. State law states that the vendor with the best value is a vendor who optimizes quality, cost, and efficiency among responsive and responsible offers. And you could consider reliability, difficulty or ease of maintenance, the useful lifespan. So it's not mandatory that you use best value. You may bid on best value, but still decide you're going to go with the lowest responsible bidder. It's just another opportunity to get the best value for a municipality. And again, it's all got to be documented.
Any comments or questions from anyone in the public? Seeing not anyone. I know we've discussed this numerous times. What's the next step if we want to move forward?
So the next step would be to close the public
Pardon me, I'm
hearing.
sorry.
and-
Did you have a?
You can go to next step. That's good.
The next step is to close the public hearing and vote on the local law, and also there was a resolution to amend the town's procurement guidelines to allow the use of best value consistent with your guidelines. This does not require referral to any other departments or agencies.
So I'm prepared to do so. Does anyone have any comments or statements? So, John?
My concern with the best value proposition is, it's not the way the law is intended or the way the law is written. It's the way the law is frequently used. And then when I've seen it in municipalities, there's a concern because it gives people, not an excuse, but it gives them an argument, not necessarily to get the best thing. I'm not going to go with best value, but the best thing for the municipality. With the lowest bidder, everybody knows you just got to drop your price. I'm concerned that it will give to the citizens, the taxpayers, as well as the administrators. It might or may not be more difficult to effectuate the lowest price. For somebody comes in with the same thing at a higher price, and then somebody comes in with the exact same item at a lower price. We want to make sure that that's the way you go. That's why folks go on the lowest responsible bidder of a particular thing. So my concern, and it's only a concern, I'm not saying it's going to be interpreted this way, but I've seen it being used in municipalities as a way to get things done. Well, it's a better value because we wanted it to do this, as compared to this SKU is XYZ dollar, and somebody comes in at XYZ minus 10 or XYZ minus 100 or 1,000.
I think, John, one of the advantages of this legislation is it does not require, it allows us, right? It doesn't say we have to,
I
number one. And
understand.
number two, as a private homeowner, for example, sometimes we know that the lowest responsible bidder isn't, forget if you're a homeowner, if you're in government, sometimes the lowest responsible bidder is not really responsible, and sometimes you get what you pay for.
That's
And unfortunately, government is handcuffed to a certain extent to require that.
understand.
This at least gives us the liberty to investigate alternatives.
I agree with it, and on the positive side. On the negative side is it can and frequently can be misused.
So you have to keep an eye on us and the future us's.
Uh,
We all have to keep an eye on us and the future us's.
Well, I've got all four legs. I'm trying to help you. But the point is, you're trying to do the right thing by coming through with this kind of a law. And I very much like that. You're thinking progressively. But what they always taught me in political science, particularly the municipal and those kinds of courses, it's always so good to carry a big stick. Thank you very much.
To use that kind of, this kind of instrument does require us to, one, as the proposals are created, we have to specify that it's gonna be a best value procurement. We also have to go and specify what the criteria is going to be, again, explicitly, so.
It's a lot of pressure on you guys.
And there's one other point, Jason, that the law requires that the bid award shall be accompanied by a statement explaining how the award is expected to result in savings for the town over time, and wherever possible shall include an objective and quantifiable analysis of clearly described and documented criteria, which include the foregoing enumerated criteria as they apply to the ratings of bids or offers. So it's absolutely right that there's always that potential, but there's enough safeguards in here to at least make the board who's voting on this ask the right question and get answers, and then look behind those answers.
It also does add an obligation to you as civil servants to not only do you have to do your regular jobs and all of this stuff, but you have to be quality and cost control experts. And it's problematic, just to put it in the realm of the fire, in the fire stuff. There've been a lot of changes in the requirements for the firemen. They have to have 2 sets of this and 2 sets of that. They have to find places to put it. They have to have new units. So imagine trying to build a new fire station and applying that the best value concept to the lowest denominator concept. It just adds a level of complexity and difficulty, and that was my concern. It's great in its principle. I'm worried about the implementation, and I thank you very much. I don't mean to be intrusive here, but just wanted to put a point of view out of there.
Thank you.
John.
So if we're prepared to close the public hearing, and we have a motion,
I move to close the public hearing.
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Before I forget, it's one thing I failed to mention. Today, Jill, we started a policy, it's certainly a voluntary policy, we can't force people to do so, but when people come to town hall, or you're attendee at any meeting, to sign in with the time you were here, your name and a piece of contact information, a phone number, an email, Again, we don't want this, we're not asking to preserve it, to save it for some nefarious reason, but as we're learning that other communities are dealing with this, if something happens with an outbreak or someone is diagnosed with coronavirus, we want to be able to communicate to those who are here that they are at risk and they potentially should see a healthcare provider or just take the proper steps. So when you come to town hall, no one's forcing you. You don't have to give the information, but we would ask that you give us your name, your contact information, and when you were here, so that we can, if necessary, communicate with you. And ultimately, we'll destroy it. There's no reason to preserve it. Jill, do you have anything you want to add?
Nope.
Okay, I'm
Today,
sorry.
sign-in sheets went to all departments.
Okay, thank you. And I've forgotten to mention that. All right, our next public hearing to open is a street opening permit local law.
Yeah, we'll open it.
There's a motion.
I move to open the public hearing on the street opening permit local law.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nick, you're up again.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Supervisor. So this is a local law, starting on page 11 of the packet, and there's two resolutions that accompany it on page 21 and 23. I'll briefly explain the resolutions because they're easier. The resolution on page 23 is to amend the master fee schedule concerning the operative sections of the law which imposes certain requirements on street opening permits. And page 21, the resolution is to adopt the minimum restoration limits diagram. In essence, how to repair a road once you have it open. So this is an amendment to Chapter 111 of the Town Code, and it basically concerns street opening permits. A street opening permit is required when typically a utility company is making saw cuts into a road to do repairs to gas lines, utility lines underneath, or when a contractor or homeowner is making curb cuts to extend a driveway, construct a new home, and have a new driveway entrance. That's typically when a street opening permit is required. This applies to both residents as well as to utility companies. It's adding some new requirements, but the basic premise is still the same. The town owns the property, the town spends money to pave and maintain those roads. We want to make sure that when you do the repairs, because they're necessary to go in there and repair the infrastructure, that you restore the property to its right standards. And it becomes an issue, and one of the biggest changes to the law is providing the diagram that I referenced previously that says if you're making the cuts to the road there are different time periods in which you're doing it, the different lengths in which you're doing it, that dictates what type of repairs you need to do. Is it just a patch job, or is it a repavement? Is it a repavement of a larger stretch of road, even though you're doing a small cut? Because we want to make sure that if a road was paved 6 months ago, that you're not doing a patch job. We're getting the road back to what it was when it was done 6 months ago. If it's a 8-year-old road, there's a recognition that it's not going to be restored to a 1-year-old road. And this law addresses that. This law also updates standards with respect to insurance and bonding requirements. There's also a section that says that the police department has the ability to require, when a street permit is there, that the applicant pay for the police to be present. Typically, flaggers are provided by the companies doing the work. Most cases, or in some cases, that's appropriate, but given on high-traffic roads, other municipalities require it as well, that there be a police department there, because the police have the ability to control the flow of traffic. They also understand the traffic, I think, better than a layperson, a flagger might do so. So that provision is provided for in this law as well. The town did receive a letter from Con Edison because we were proactive, reached out to the utility companies, who are the ones most likely to be impacted by this. And we received a comment letter today with some comments. And in looking at the comments, I think it's going to be best resolved by answering their questions in a telephone conference call. They're pretty straightforward. We have answers to them. And I think it's just better explaining the law, but they may not understand what our objectives are. They object to certain things that are existing in other municipalities that we know they get their permits from already, because that's where we took this diagram from. We looked at other laws and we drafted this.
So I think in one of our meetings with Con Edison, I provided some pictures of some cuts they made in our sidewalk, and they patched it with a soft patch. This law would require them to have a certain time frame that they have to restore it back to its proper form.
Correct. Yep.
Whereas opposed to leaving soft patching it, for an extended period of time, or not bringing it back to its initial or original or proper shape.
That's correct. And when we constantly, we refer to it as street opening, but it applies to the sidewalk. It applies to the grass in the right of way. So if they do a big cut in the grass dies, it's just mud and dirt, they've got to go back and restore it to grass or a concrete sidewalk, as the case may be. And if they take a telephone pole out and put a new one in, because we don't want double poles, they've got to make sure that's patched, not with the soft patch, but to your point, with the concrete to restore it to the same surface as it is in the surrounding area.
Any public input? Anyone from the town board? All right, so we're going to adjourn it until when?
Our recommendation would be to adjourn to allow us to make any changes, if necessary, as a result of the Con Edison letter.
So March 24th, please.
Motion?
Okay, so I move to adjourn the public hearing to March
24th.
25th.
No, wait, hold on. I thought we weren't, let's stop there for a second.
March
Were we not, which is not a,
March 24th is the
No,
next
it's
meeting.
the next.
It's the next town board meeting.
It's the 4th.
okay, it's the 31st we don't have. My apologies,
Right, yeah.
my apologies.
So I move to adjourn it to March 24th at 7 PM at Town Hall in Newcastle, or as soon thereafter as called on the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we have another public hearing, and that is the vacant store registry. We have a motion to open.
I move to open public hearing on the vacant store registry. I do not have coronavirus. I just joked.
Everybody's going to call it.
I'll second, though I don't know about the coronavirus. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I don't want you to choke either.
You'll sit closer to me if I'm joking, okay?
So,
Go ahead.
this local law is on page 26 of the packet, and likewise accompanied by a resolution on page 31. The purpose of a resolution is to adopt a fee which would be $25 per vacant storefront. This local law would establish a scheme and policy that is prevalent in other communities. And it's, the purpose, I'm going to read it from the statute, the purpose of the chapter is to promote the health, safety, and welfare of the residents of the town by encouraging the rehabilitation and reoccupancy of vacant storefronts in the town. There's certain findings that the presence of vacant storefronts can adversely affect the desirability of the immediate neighboring areas. One empty storefront on a block can lead to more vacancies and diminish the value. Small businesses rely on a vibrant commercial corridor, and also that it's important for the municipality to have a list of these vacant properties and ready contact information in case of crime, vandalism, or just making sure that they're being actively marketed so that they do get put back to productive use for all the reasons mentioned. So the local law has a number of definitions, but its operative clause is to require a registration of vacant storefronts. And there's a vacant storefront registration form. It's required to register the property within 90 days of the effective date of this chapter, and thereafter within 30 days upon a storefront becoming vacant. The town board did discuss as a policy that the resolution requires that the fee would be waived during such time as the moratorium is in effect in the downtown area. But that doesn't allow someone not to register. You need to register, but you just wouldn't be paying the fee. And also posting a sign in the storefront window with contact information of the managing agent responsible for the maintenance of the property. And then section 122A5 has requirement regarding the maintenance of the vacant storefront, kept in good repair, painted where required. Again, just another tool to make sure that it's not going to become dilapidated or not maintained. And then there's certain exemptions. If it's a valid or open building permit and it's vacant because you're doing work, makes sense, you're not going to be charged the fee, and it doesn't need to register. It still has to register, but they're exempt from the payment of registration and renewal fees. Likewise, if you have a land use application, or if you have a valid written lease of at least 1 year. And then there are certain penalties for not complying with the law as well. That's an overview of the law.
And then just to confirm, that will apply to both the Chappaqua and Millwood hamlets.
It does, yes.
And that we're using the fees from each of those hamlets to beautify or enhance that hamlet.
That is correct, yes.
Discover Chappaqua is for the
For
Chappaqua.
Chapel Hamlet, right.
Right.
But
But
then
then
Millwood
downtown
was
is-
gonna be
Yeah,
for
yeah, we don't-
planting or whatever we
We don't
wanted to do
expect
for
enormous
that.
fees, but whatever,
No.
whatever the fees end up being. All right, any other comment, anything from the public? All right, go ahead, Nick, you're about to.
No, just to clarify Lisa's comments in section 122A6 about the fees, and it goes to the annual registration fee, should be refunded if a property is leased within 1 year, but all revenues received should be used for Chappaqua property should be used by Discover Chappaqua for programs that would market and promote the Chappaqua Hamlet. All revenues received from Millwood properties should be used to beautify the Millwood Hamlet. So no referrals required. If there's, after receiving public comment, the board can vote to close the public hearing.
And
So
thank you to
wishes.
Lisa for suggesting that, because that was not initially part of it, so thank you. So, anyone move to close the public hearing? Oh, sorry, I forgot. Do you have any comment, any public comment? Seeing a head shaking no. Thank you for whispering, no one heard you on that. Can we now close the public hearing?
I move to close the public hearing on the vacant store
I
registry.
take back that thank you
Second.
for noticing that before, Lisa, with the Millwood side. All in favor?
Aye.
Resolutions?
Yes.
All right,
Shall I start?
go ahead.
I move to approve payment of claims in the amount of $1,340,450.71. 2019 expenditures totaling $710,753.72, and 2020 expenditures totaling $629,696.99, listed on the summary pre-check writing report and detail voucher detail reports, all dated March 10, 2020. Checks will be issued and mailed to each claimant listed on Wednesday, March 11, 2020.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. I move to accept the following monthly reports for February 2020. Town clerk, court clerk, development department, and receiver of taxes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I move to adopt the following sets of town board minutes. July 16, 2019, work session town board meeting. July 20th, 2019, town board meeting. November 19th, 2019, work session meeting. November 26th, 2019, town board meeting to December 10th, 2019, town board meeting. December 17th, 2019, work session meeting. February 11, 2020, work session meeting, town board meeting.
Second.
All in
So
favor?
before we go on, just want to make note that both Laura and Levin and I were not in attendance for most of those, for those meetings.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, I guess my turn? Yeah, finish it.
Just finish it, okay. I move to adopt the following resolution. Be it resolved that the attached schedule of charges for unpaid water for property shown on the tax polls are hereby fixed and determined by the board and certified to the supervisor of the town of Newcastle, that such amounts are levied against the real property as set forth on the attached schedule of charges for unpaid water, that the same be raised by tax upon the real property in the town of Newcastle, liable therefore at that time and in the matter provided by the town law and Westchester County Administrative Code, and that the amount of such tax be stated in a separate column in the annual tax rolls of the town of Newcastle under a column entitled to water rents.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Okay, I move to authorize the Chappaqua Garden Club to utilize the train station parking lot for their annual Mother's Day plant sale from May 7th through 9th of 2020.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I move to authorize the Department of Public Works to go out to bid for the purchase and installation of highway maintenance materials to be used in 2020.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. I move to authorize the Department of Public Works to go out to bid for chemicals for the Millwood Water Treatment Plant to be used in 2020.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I move to adopt the following resolution relating to the license agreement with the Chappaqua Farmers Market. Essentially, we are renewing their agreement. And be it resolved, the town board of the town of Newcastle hereby modifies the paragraph in the town board's December 13, 2018 resolution and incorporated in its January 29th, 2019, April 30th, 2019, and June 25th, 2019 resolutions that no temporary certificate of occupancy shall be issued, renewed, or extended beyond 6 months from the date of this filing of this resolution, to be read as follows. Be it further resolved that notwithstanding the temporary relief granted herein, no temporary CO for the existing retail space will be issued, renewed, or extended beyond May 31st, 2020. This, by the way, is talking about certain approvals that were granted authorizing the issuance, oh no.
Yeah, you're
I'm reading the wrong one.
Yeah, you flipped to the wrong page.
I'm like, wait a
It's
minute,
not
we don't
attached.
have a temporary CO. This is the temporary, see, this is from last week. All right, I move to renew the license agreement for the Chappaqua Farmers Market, which has been reviewed and approved by council.
Any modification you need for that, Nick, or is that okay?
Is that good?
That is sufficient, yeah. Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, you seconded,
Aye.
right?
Oh, I
Doesn't matter, you did anyway, I heard you say.
Okay, second, yeah,
Yeah, it was
okay,
looking-
great. I was
Why
like,
am I
that's
looking
not
at this?
I'm sorry, I was
PCO.
looking.
No, that's okay, that's okay.
When I saw Lifetime
Um,
Fitness on there.
Yeah.
All right, so number 9, Conservation Board, is that where we are
Yeah,
now?
yeah, that's
Yeah.
where we're at.
Okay.
You wanna go?
Sure. I move to reappoint the following individuals to the Conservation Board for another 2-year term effective the corresponding dates. Karen Anton, December 22nd, 2019 to December 21st, 2021. Victoria Alzapati, January 8th, 2020 to January 7th, 2022. And Melissa Fable-Weddle, December 24th, 2019 through December 23rd, 2021.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I move to appoint Susan Fisher to the Conservation Board for a 2-year term effective March 11th, 2020.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I move to authorize the purchase of the following list of equipment for use by the Newcastle Parks Department with updated 2020 New York State OGS contract pricing totaling $65,844.60 with price quotes received from FinTech Services Incorporated, regional authorized dealer for Deere and Company, and for the sale of John Deere equipment and products. Authorization to purchase this equipment was originally approved on January 28th, 2020, with the expired 2019 New York State OGS contract pricing totaling $64,655.67. The difference in pricing from 2019 to 2020 represents an increase of $1,188.93, or 1.84%.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Joan? Sure. I move to adopt a local law including, to include awarding competitively bid purchase contracts on the basis of best value as an alternative to lowest responsible bidder.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. I move to adopt the Town of Newcastle procurement policy as amended for 2020 to include best value purchases and local preference.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move to accept the combined audit response and corrective action plan prepared by the Deputy Town Administrator to be filed with the Office of the State Controller, Newburgh Regional Office.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I move to set a public hearing on revisions to section 60-560 of the town code regarding development fee, oh wait, are we doing this?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
you adopt, you say in the local hearing.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
To set a public hearing on revisions to section 60-560 of the town code regarding development fees and unpaid escrow accounts to be held on March 24th, 2020 at Newcastle Town Hall at 7 p.m.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hi. I move to authorize extending the after-school transportation contract with Chappaqua Transportation for an additional year from January 1st, 2020 to December 31st, 2020, for the current rate of $6 per child per ride and the same terms and conditions as provided for in the current contract.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move to authorize the Recreation Department to go to bid for day camp bus services.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You're going to skip 18, 22, and 23, because that concerns this reopening local law. 22 and 23.
19. I move to adopt a local law to create chapter 122A of the code of the town of Newcastle establishing a vacant storefront registry.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Oh, wow.
Go
Couldn't-
for it.
Couldn't avoid it. It's,
All right, I move to adopt the following resolution, whereas the town of Newcastle from time to time receives permits from the New York State Department of Transportation and otherwise conducts activities for purposes of installation, obstruction, construction, maintenance, and/or operation of facilities within rights-of-way controlled by the state of New York, and whereas the town's access to and operation of solar-powered pedestrian crosswalk, RRFB warning light systems upon a right-of-way controlled by New York State DOT is conditioned upon the town assuming responsibility for the maintenance of such systems. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby authorizes the installation by the town and authorizes assumption of maintenance responsibility for 2 solar-powered pedestrian crosswalk, RRFB, warning light systems located at the intersection of King Street with Poyon Drive and at the intersection of Millwood Road with the North County Trailway. Be it further resolved that the town board hereby authorizes the supervisor and her designee to direct completion of this work and provide for the submission of all documents required by New York State DOT in relation to this project.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move to approve change order number 4 in the amount of $15,822.92 for the installation of 10 light pole footings, and change order number 5 in the amount of $14,957.71 for the installation of 11 bollard footings, and these are all in relation to the new lighted basketball court.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
24th, the next one.
Yep. Okay, this is an amendment, amending the master fee schedule concerning the town's vacant storefront registry. Whereas we're authorized by section 17.2 of the Newcastle Town Code to amend our master fee schedule by resolution. Now therefore be it resolved, the town board hereby adds the following fees to the master fee schedules provided as follows. Chapter 122A for the annual vacant storefront registration fee and renewal fee, $25 per vacant storefront. Be it further resolved, the annual registration fee, but not the requirement to register the vacant storefront, shall be waived during the town's moratorium imposed by local law 13 of 2018 as extended, and the requirement to pay such fee shall take effect within,
How many
what did we
months?
say?
Is it 90 days?
3 months?
That was 90 days.
90
Yeah.
days, 3
90
months.
So 90 days or 3 months of the expiration of the moratorium.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I move to appoint Jen Tucker Salon to the Recreation Commission for a 5-year term set to expire on December 31st, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I move to appoint Erin Spira to the Recreation Commission for a 7-year term set to expire on December 31st, 2027.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Move to adjourn, are we all set? Anything else you want to add?
You good? All right. Think we're good?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Can I hold them hostage again? You really call us?
Don't call the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
I still do a good job?
Very good job.